What's up, guys? Alex here, licensed CPA and realtor, and I'm back here with my man, Mr. Franklin. So, as expected, Sunday has been the busy open house day, right?
Yep.
So, on the back of that, how are you feeling so far?
Feeling great. First busy one, so feeling great.
And that's the thing, right? Like, I think this is like area specific, right? But so far, consistently, this particular area of Brooklyn, the Sundays have been just crazy busy open house days, right? And so I felt bad because the first time you rolled around, the weather was complete trash, and then secondly, it was a Saturday, right? And I think we got a handful of it, maybe? Did we?
Yesterday?
No.
Last time.
Last time.
Yeah, last time, yeah. A few people came through.
Yeah, a few people. And then yesterday we had a handful as well. But today it was like just pouring in.
Yeah, one after the other.
Right.
Got the whole one.
Yeah. and that's the thing, right? And so going in terms of how we go about open houses, right? And this is honestly where a lot of us make our money, right? Well, earn, right? Because, for instance, this open house was from 12 to 3, right? That doesn't mean that our time starts at 12 to 3, right? So I have to show up at least an hour early, and if you need to tidy something up, look, I'm already here. As long as I'm not like scrubbing down your walls and right, so tidy up the place. If I need to air out the house, I won't do that, right? And then we have materials, right? We have the signage sheet, we have the property sheets, we have disclosures, right? You have all these other stuff, marketing materials that we have to set up and make sure that everything is presentable, right? Now, within the next couple of months, especially after that sheet that we've had, I'm expecting within the next 3 to 6 months. 3 months is I don't scratch the 6 months. 3 months. Within 3 months. You're gonna have open houses, and you're gonna be like, "Hey, Alex, I need some help with some open houses." Whose listing is it? Mine, dude. Comment yes or no, right?
Surely over so.
So now, with that, I'm also assuming that I'm gonna be the dude who shows up at the start of the open house and not the hour and a half beforehand.
Yeah.
You're gonna feel my pain, okay? So the prep is done, right? Now, during the open house, we kind of had our workflow, so that kind of split, right? Now, this is the preface of like how listing agents operate. That varies, right? So different agents, some agents might be, look, I'll pay for the day. Some agents might say, hey, look, I want a referral fee for whatever we give you. And dum-dums like me, I might just be like, hey, look, we'll deal with the splits later, but today, whatever buyers you have is yours, right? I'm told it's a bad business decision, but the way I see it is what it is. It is what it is. Now, from the helping side of it, right? Is there, like, in your head, how do you break down the different potential, like, I guess, compensations in terms of helping out an open house? Like, so for instance, as opposed to if someone saying, hey, look, I'll give you, I don't know, $100 for the day, as opposed to, I'll give you some buy leads. Like, how would you weigh that on your end?
I think it's very easy to weigh that. The buy leads will be up there as far as getting paid for the day. I mean, just like that, because, yeah.
Me personally too, I would prefer buy leads. End of story. But I do understand that there are going to be people who will just give me my cash, man, because I don't even know if these buyer leads mean anything at all.
Right.
And I understand that, right? And so part of it is, as a preface, there is a sign-in sheet. And if we're being honest, there's a lot of information that's drawn from that. Do we need to update people in terms of price changes, things of that nature? Or if they're not liking this house, maybe we could help them with other houses, right? But for me, my personal stance is, look, if I'm the listing agent, my first and foremost duty is to my client, period, right? But this is the reason why I might break into like, so you're ready to make an offer. Sometimes I'll be really blunt. I'm like, hey, so how do you like this house? Oh, it's okay. Well, how would you like to put an offer in? If they're outright like, there's no way in hell, dude, I'm not putting an offer on this house. Okay. So then what don't you like about this house? Right? And this is where some people forget that do the duty to your client first. But if they are not even remotely interested in putting an offer on that house, well, then they don't have to be your client for this. You could be their buyer agent for something else. Right? And so the sign-in sheet portion is partially also for safety, right? Unfortunately, there are a lot of bad actors who do stupid and dumb things, right? And so for protection, we like to have this, right? In terms of like who came in and who came out, right? And going forward, for New York State, we're going to require, for instance, like driver's license, a proof of identification, right? So God forbid something happens, this person rolled through the house, right? But the other side of it is updates. If something happens, like if prices update, we'll hit you up. If there are other houses in the market that might give you a better idea, we're gonna hit you up. You have the buyer leads that, or you know what, some of them might be sellers, right? Like I think you had a couple of people who rolled through. It's like, yo, we're looking to sell our house. Actually,
I think the one guy, he says parents.
So yeah, let's walk through that. Like how did that happen? So obviously they walked in the house, right?
They walked in. Mm-hmm. They looked at the house. They liked the house, liked the size of the house, and the issue was the fact of them even looking for the house was that their parents live like up the block, and parking in the area. They said it's very rare to have a parking space living in this area. So that alone is what they don't want to leave. The parents don't want to leave, but they were like, if they could get that house with the garage, they would stay right here on the same block. So,
now, I'm gonna pause right there. Comment below how you would have followed up on that little bit of the conversation. Just curious, right? Okay, so they talked about how the parking spot was important and they want to be close to their folks, right? So then, is there anything else that happened throughout the rest of that showing?
Well, the garage. When they seen the garage, they like the garage. But it's not for them though. I think it's still for the parents.
Which makes
it's not them. The parents and they want to stay here. So yeah.
And that's
conversation was good. It was a good conversation.
So we do have buyers here, right? Some of them are looking to sell their home and move. And some of them are just first time buyers, or they just outright just buying. Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's unfortunate, right? Because they are not looking to buy this house, right? And so, look, for me, it's one of those things where, look, if they're not looking at this house and they have no agent, right? Again, no agent. So this is where I think some of us get into trouble because some buyers would show up with no agent with them, but they have an agent. Right. So let's just preface that and say we're not like people with agents just off the list, period. Right. So no agent. They don't like this house, and from my perspective, and this is just not even as in like, and I've said this in the past, like even if you don't use me as your buyer's agent, go get an agent, period, right? Just please, unless you really, 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 really know what you're doing, don't go there flying along. Because some people I've seen, they're like, oh well, I could use my cut as like a bargaining chip. I'm like, you can maybe. I've seen a lot of times where that doesn't work in your favor, period. Right? So, with that said, when you first come in, if there are buyers with no agents and they don't like this house, then, go hit them up, right? And it's not, I mean, obviously it works for you if it turns out to business, but on the other side of it, unfortunately, there are people who get taken advantage of because they have no agent to protect them, right? And unfortunately, there are people, and I've heard it multiple times, oh, well, I'll call my lawyer when I get to that point. I'm like, that would be an ideal scenario if your lawyer was adept at handling the early onset and the in-between. And I know there are a lot of lawyers, unfortunately, that swear up and down that they can, and it turns out that, and these aren't all lawyers, right? So let's get, generalities all out, right? But there are enough cases where just having a lawyer isn't enough. And then they end up not in a great situation, right? So I understand we have a good amount of buyers who have rolled through today. Just today alone. And so, essentially, how do you see yourself reaching out? What is your game plan for these leads?
Game plan is, I'm gonna give them a call. First thing I'm gonna do is, remind them who I am. It's the open house, Carl Franklyn Jr. 7602. Once we get that part out the way, I'm gonna ask them, how'd you like somebody else? So
again, we got hit up with another little last minute interruption, but
good interruption.
It was a good interruption. Look, it's always, I don't know, like for me, having a full open house at the end of the day is still just going to be like a blessing, right? Period. But I think we were talking about how going forward you're going to essentially how you're going to follow up on some of these buyer leads, right? And it's jargon. And I think, again, people could take this the wrong way. It's like, oh, you just think we're another lead. Look, at the end of the day, I feel like as agents, it's our job to serve. right? And so, going forward, how is it that you think you're gonna like? What is your in your head? What is the process going forward in following up with or handling some of these people?
Well, the good thing about meeting them at the open house is that I got to meet them in the process of them seeing a home. So therefore, they already said what they don't like, dislikes, what they did like, and then I could kind of go off of that. And I already have had conversations with them as well. So things that I remember from the conversation we had, and I could also go off of that as well. So that's how I plan on reaching out to them and speaking with them and just helping them go forward, because now I know what they're kind of looking for in the area and everything like that.
Fair enough. And I mean, the first couple that trickled in early in the morning, we got a little tip that's like, it wasn't as crazy. So I was like, oh, okay, they want something like bigger, or I'm like, some of them I'm just like, all right, baller, like if you got the money, if you got that kind of money, and it's just one of those things like that's assuming that they are serious.
Yeah.
I think your number's gonna be looking really good in a couple months, my man. But as we kind of fly by, towards the minute it gets busy. So like obviously there are times where I'm like I'm pretty sure this dude left the house because I haven't seen him. Like, we're opposite ends of the house. We're like scrambling, right? And for me there's that little thing of as people say, this is the problem, that's the problem, and I'm like, that's great. But in the back of my head also what I'm thinking is, my man is gonna be crazy busy scrambling. Like you're gonna like get very intimate with that MLS.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Very intimate.
Because I mean, look, and this is where I think the earnings are made too, right? Because there's that running joke of like they want the 6-bedroom, 18 million bath for like 8,000 square foot for like $200,000, and I'm like, according to who? Right? So, I mean, obviously we got the full gamut. Some people who really they've been really looking, and they kind of got a general sense of what that pulse looked like. And then you have the people who really have these outlandish, I think I'm going to buy a mansion for $500,000. I think as you go through them, I'm curious to see how you gauge these analyses. But then they're like, because I think today we had I'm not even counting. We got pages, right?
Yeah.
Pages full, and so the inventory here, right? I mean, look, every day or at least once a week, I like to pull the listings that are available and something expires. We already know there's not enough listings for these people,
Right.
and even assuming half of these people are serious, currently it's gonna be tough.
A few people actually mentioned that. They said like the inventory is not much inventory.
And I'm getting to that point, right? Like, because look, some people are good for the money, and they're like, do I want to pay this price for it? Especially knowing that the mortgage rate's gonna be high, right? And in your head, where are you at mentally in terms of that argument?
As far as the mortgage rates?
So they're like, look, there's not a lot of inventory, and we do want to buy a house, but like this house is kind of expensive, and like the mortgage rate's already up a point and change.
Great question, and I actually got that question today from a potential buyer's client. Yeah, because the only reason I got the question is because last week, when the mortgage rates raised, I sent her a message about it, letting her know. She actually said, "Oh, that's good." See, people don't be knowing. I said, really, because she actually was looking from before when it was over 3. So I showed her the difference. I did a calculation on the difference for her, and now I went up again a week later, hit up again, said the same thing, and she asked, "Is it going to go up?" And I said, "Yeah, it should go up. It will be going up." But she asked, "Should she wait?" So that's kind of what you just asked, and I said to her, "No, you shouldn't wait because it's predicted to go up even higher. As far as I heard, 6 times more higher. Like not 6 times higher, but 6 more times it will be going up. So therefore, right now, it would be best to buy now before it starts going up because you know it's going to go up.
Right.
Rather than wait to who knows what's going to happen after that.
And for me, I'll add a caveat, right? And this is for me. So my preface, right, is going to be: I still think if you can, you should absolutely buy a house. Right, and for me, part of the asterisk is going to be, as within bounds of reason, like as long as you can comfortably afford it, right? And this is like in the past, I realized that I was like, no, buy a house, because on one end I'm like, you got appreciation, you have the fact that if it's a primary house, you have forced equity. Well, not forced equity, it's a forced savings, right? You're putting money into this thing, and overall, generally houses appreciate, right? So you take that plus tax benefits of owning a house, and later on, if you're in a good market, if you're single, $250,000 of capital gains gone, right? If you're married, you have $500,000 of gain as long as you live 2 out of 5 years. And for me, like my brain is there. Mm-hmm. And then as I dig a little more into it, unfortunately, I realized that there are people who buy out of their means, right? And so for me, it's like, look, as long as you can afford it, right? And I know this is something that's triggering, like that's on your end too, because it was said here, but in the previous conversations, look, it has to make financial sense, right? As long as, and for me, I think it's easy for us to kind of conveniently leave that out. Mm-hmm. But it's not for anything else. It's just we think that that's because we're in this industry. We're like that should be no brainer, right? We just think that's a given, right? And so for me, I want to keep reminding myself and everyone else like that key point, that little small insignificant detail is actually huge, right? And so for me, do I think you should buy it? Yes, hands down, yes. But as long as it makes sense. And now I'm seeing all the other side of it is if it's this area, let's say it was Flatbush. My follow-up is that, look, if you're going to sit out, me personally, and this is not financial advice, this is, right, you need to do your own due diligence because I'm not a financial advisor. Right. But my personal thing is if I had the funds, I would buy it, period. Right. As long as my fundamentals, like as long as I can safely afford it, I have some cash reserves that just in case something happens, like all that stuff. Now, does that, if I wait much longer and it turns out I can't afford Flatbush, maybe I need to go somewhere else. I understand that. That's going to be pain points, right? Because in New York, if you're in another borough, you might as well live in another state, right? How many people do you know as you grew up? They're like, let's say you're in Brooklyn, and they're like, oh, Shorty's in Queens, and you're like, we're done, right? And you're like, why? Because they're in Queens. What does that mean? That means I have to go hop on a train, go to the city to Queens. By the time
free Uber,
and it's like, nah, dude, like I'm not doing this, right? And so I understand people work, right? So this is. In areas that I drive, like a lot of friends in Jersey, like I get it, my commute sucks because I gotta drive a little longer. I'm like, here it could be significantly different, right? One neighborhood over could be another 30 minutes on your commute, right? So I understand that. So I think you're in a good spot, right? And I know you are more the north like areas of Brooklyn, and you're learning this southern side of Brooklyn, right? And thankfully there's a range, right? It's just. I think as you drive around more, you're also seeing the difference between like, you got the limestones over here, right? You got the row homes over there. And then you got, the more you got the multi-families down the block, you got some co-ops, apartments, and condos. Mm-hmm. You're going to be busy, my dude. You're going to be busy, my guy.
I welcome it.
Right?
I welcome it.
And so, are you still, well, actually, after this batch, I think you're going to be in Bay Ridge for a bit. I'm just going to call it, right? I think you'll be here for a bit. But
everybody was interested in Bay Ridge.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I guess it's the same. For me, I think it's the same logic, right? Like, if you can't afford the areas that you like, you kind of bump over a little bit. But there's also people's lives change, right? And no matter where you go, I feel like there's a transition somewhere. Currently, I am seeing a lot of people from Williamsburg and Park Slope, right? And historically, that has been very jam-packed, very trendy, very because your commute to the city is very short. Mm-hmm. Now, as a lot of those people either get priced out or maybe situations in their life change, they decided they want a little more room and they want a different, because this Bay Ridge really is a different area, right?
From Park Slope, of course.
Of course, like the feel is different, the vibe is different, and if you're not from here, you won't know that, right? And the more time you spend here, they realize, I could do without the Williamsburg vibes. I could do without the Park Slope vibe. Not a shot against them. It's just a different life, right? So I am seeing a lot more people as I see these potential buyers come through and they're like, wait, just for me it's small talk, right? It's like, so where are you guys currently at? A lot of times I'm here in Williamsburg, Park Slope, right? And it makes sense because it's the same line down, same train line too. So there's a lot of familiarity, just a different life, and I think. Honestly, when we first started rolling through here, I was like, my dude's gonna be here for like maybe a couple open houses. And, I think he's gonna just go for sale here and then move on. But And it could still be that, but like, how are you feeling currently right now in terms of area?
As far as Bay Ridge?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not like this is my first time in Bay Ridge.
Of course. And that's the other side of it, right?
Like, I know Bay Ridge from working out in the area. And then coming from years ago when I used to shop, 86th Street, I used to come to 86th Street. Like, nobody don't remember Section 21.
Yes, sir.
Hey, before I'd rather go to the city, no, come to Bay Ridge. So, I do know Bay Ridge. I got to finally meet some people, like really meet people doing open house. And, I mean, it seems like it's a lot of people looking for houses out here. That's for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of people looking for houses out here, and I'm more than willing to help out, but don't find a house out here.
So I think at one point we're gonna be scrapping for the over box, bro. I'm letting you know right now. You got one flyer, I'm gonna put 5. How about that? Well, look, I like to start. I do. I really do. And you know what? If this keeps working out, dude, I think I might just have to start rolling up on your blocks too, and be like,
hey,
you know that Carl dude. Like I'm a friend of his. Right? That's a friend of mine. Now do me a favor, sign these papers. Let's list some houses. You know what I'm saying? Let's make some moves.
All right, here we go.
But again, look, at this point, it was a very solid. Look, I know your dogs are probably barking right now. There's a lot of up and down stairs.
Up and down, whoa. Exercise. I don't need to go to the gym.
Look, and I appreciate the help. I do.
No problem.
No, if honestly, if you weren't here, I think I'd be scrambling. Like, I think I'd be down right now.
It would have been a scramble.
Yeah.
It would have been a line.
Yes, sir.
It would have been a line, yeah.
And there's a lot of restocking we need to do, right?
Yeah.
So, before, look, and I think we're going to be at a point where I'm probably going to have you on again at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But until then, where can folks find you?
Again, Carl Franklyn Jr. on Facebook. C. Franklin Homes. That's just C the letter. Franklin with the Y. Homes. Instagram. And yeah, phone number 929-479-4791.
Okay. So keep an eye out for my man over here, because look, again, there's a hunger in his eyes, man. Like this, right? And just like you could click on the Weeble referral link down below, get some free stocks. My man over here, hit him up with some referrals as well, because my man is gonna be watch. I'm just saying, just watch. All right. So with that said, thank you all for joining us, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.